are really well on top of and an expert on, we have to do things differently.
That I recognise. My question was, why wasn't this up front? So some of us sat on the Public Accounts Committee to try and get after the detail of this discussion of that business, and we didn't have a baselining in the way that Mr. Norman put out. That would have been a really useful thing, because it would have been quite clear the programmes or the elements of the programme which just weren't funded and were pie in the sky in the first instance. And so arriving in the SDR process, there is an effort to not compound that error, even though we didn't have the necessary public discussion to understand just how bad things were anyway. But in attempting to not compound the error, the TORs for the SDR said that the review will identify where reprioritisation of roles, capabilities, activities and support will be made in the current defence programme. That's correct, am I not?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, because last week CDS was unclear that was the case, and just to kind of link, and I know we'll talk about the ABC later, that is entirely contrary to how your new design works. It's very definitely that CDS should be providing some of that prioritisation internally to you. So the question I have is, who took the decision to remove the reprioritisation from the SDR? When was that decision made, and under what rationale?
Sorry, I'm actually, you've lost me.
Okay.
The SDR was a reset of this country's strategic defence and security approach. It was done so to reflect the framework of priorities that we'd set out in our manifesto.
With the greatest respect, Secretary of State, my point was that in the TORs, the reprioritisation was part of the activity, and at some point, and we've observed this into our two committee, and I can draw out the quotes, when the team first came out in front of us, I think it was Lord Robertson first said, like, that's part of what we were being asked to do. And then when they came back, General Barron said, actually, I don't have to worry about this. Like, that's for them to do. When between those two meetings was that changed? Under what rationale did that change come about?
I may be a bit slow, but I'm still not following you. Of course, the Strategic Defence Review was a review and a resetting of Britain's strategic priorities. We left behind, and we said at the election we would, the sort of bombast of a global Britain under Boris Johnson. We were recognising the increasing threats. We were recognising that America was rightly requiring European nations to step up and do more within NATO. And we were recognising that a Britain that burnt its relations, sometimes willfully so in the Brexit process, had left Britain without the strength of alliances that we need for the future, which is why since the election you've seen the Trinity House Agreement with Germany that wasn't there before, you've seen a reboot of the Lancaster House Agreement with France, you've seen the Luna House Agreement with Norway, all with strategic security and defence relations at their heart, but also big economic opportunities
and with,
as well. For
with the greatest respect, all of those things are wonderful, but they are built on the foundations of a £7 to £29 billion 10-year plan. So it was already running into the programme. So a year in, you've already been working in the annual budget cycles, which would have been prefaced on that flawed plan. The SDR then arrives and it adds all this new ambition, and we don't know at which point the SDR team was told not to apply that ambition within the SDR. We don't know why, and there is no evidence of reprioritisation after the SDR. So the question again, at which point was the prioritisation removed from the SDR team?
I'm still failing to understand your question, and Chair, perhaps I could just say, if you need, can you write to me on this?
My friend Emily will be able to advise on that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Healey, I'm just not following what you're saying.
All right,
the SDR team.
Emma, go on.
Sorry, afternoon all. Secretary State, I think if I can try and simplify it, because I do tend to speak quite bluntly and straight, the SDR was supposed to identify reprioritisation, but it didn't. The reviewers were clear with us that that had been removed. So why did the SDR go from its terms of reference to say it should identify what defence should and should no longer do to then changing? Is what we're trying to understand here. Is that fair, Calvin?
There are no doubt errors. The SDR doesn't say what it isn't going to do. So and then more worryingly, you also have programmes in there that you knew were unfunded, but your language, they're heavily overcommitted and badly underfunded decisions. And there is no evidence